Welcome to the Fearless Podcast. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Fearless Podcast. We are at episode 24.
Episode 24. Glad to be here.
It's going fast and furious.
Yeah, it is.
It's been fun. And we are really excited today because today, y'all, we met an awesome couple at the Mountain Readiness Conference.
Yes, we did.
By the way, we are planning on being back at Mountain Readiness in May. So we're going to be back there. So we'll leave a link. And so if y'all are interested in getting tickets and all that cool stuff, we'll leave a link down below. We're at episode 24. And today we have Ben and Denise from Renewed Homestead. So they have a YouTube channel. They're documenting their journey. I think that they were kind of part of this homestead tsunami that Joel Salatin talks about. And so I asked them to come on the show today. They have a great, very interesting story. And so I wanted y'all to hear their background, kind of like their origin story, where they came from, how they got to where they are. And so welcome, Ben and Denise, to the Fearless Podcast. How y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Good. How are y'all doing?
Doing good.
It is beautiful here. Are y'all still experiencing a drought, or have you been getting some rain?
Very much so. We got a tiny little bit of rain this morning, but nothing that's going to affect anything. Yeah, we're supposed to get like an inch on Tuesday, but it has been so dry. We've got two big wildfires going that aren't too far from us. It's just a mess here right now.
And that's very out of the ordinary, correct?
Very out of the ordinary, for us.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, y'all have been experiencing it too for a while, though, right?
Yeah, we always experience it kind of every year. That's part of the challenge of the beauty and gloriousness of our climate. Is we always got to battle with water. So, mulch.
But of lately, it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect.
Lots of rain.
Mixed rain, 70 degrees. It's like, it's literally perfect outside right now.
Hopefully y'all will get some rain soon.
Hope so. Tuesday. We're praying because we're so dry. It's ridiculous how dry. Yeah, we normally we're used to almost 60 inches of rain a year. And it's just been a crazy year. Like I think we've had a quarter of an inch in the last 8 weweeks.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for us.
Well, and it's been warm, so our pasture would be recovering faster for the cows and the sheep, but it's not.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get right into it. So now currently y'all are in North Carolina.
Yep.
But that's not where you're from. So maybe if y'all could get into kind of like your origin story, like first off, maybe tell us a little bit more of your background. I know both of you were, I think both involved in corporate banking, like kind of big six banking, larger banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, something like that.
Yeah, that was me, but you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got 30 years in banking, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. And, I was a keyboard jockey for years and years and years, and very slothful lifestyle, I guess. I mean,
compared to now.
Yeah, compared to now. Yeah. It's, we moved out here and I think I lost 30 pounds and, in short order. So I can feel the hate looks here. Yeah, I know women have to work for it, and men go out and decide to lose 10 pounds, and away it goes. But I just I kind of fell into the banking. What the funny thing is, my dad was a banker, and he always said, "Don't go into banking." So 30 years later, here and there, credit cards, IT, that kind of thing. Project management was where I spent the last 18 years. Allowed me some flexibility, but what it came down to was here, just a little over 2 years ago, I'm seeing, in my opinion, I'll phrase it that way, I'm watching the economy and seeing 2008 repeat itself, tenfold. But I went to my supervisor and I said, listen, I'm not going to spend another 20 years waiting for my 401k to recover. I'd like to have my money. And they're like, they thought that was a very odd request. And they're like, well, as long as you're employed, you can't have that. And after a lot of discussion and a lot of prayer, we decided that I was going to take early retirement. And, right now I would be down tens of thousands of dollars from where I was when I got that money out. But, my boss is like, you really think it's going to get that bad? And I'm like, yeah. I wouldn't be taking these steps, because we had planned when we got here. We've been here 3 years now on the property. We had planned that I was going to work about 2 more years, and our main thing is to get completely out of debt, get the house paid off, and all that. And we're still working on that. But yeah, I guess the other part of that is I was born and raised in Arizona, and there's no water there. And there are 5 roads out of that valley. When things go bad, everybody's going to be on that road. It's like the opening scene from The Walking Dead, where you see Atlanta and all the cars are just gridlocked and abandoned on the side of the road. That's exactly what Phoenix is going to look like. So we started looking.
Yeah, well, you were into prepping long before I was. Like, he had started, and it wasn't this like, okay, stuff's going to hit the fan kind of thing, like a world ending. It was more of, okay, if there's a job loss, or, if somebody gets sick, we need to have some preparations. And I remember thinking he was a little crazy.
Yeah, so did my kids.
So did his kids. But, now I'm like full-fledged, right?
But there were these lockdowns that happened about 3 years ago. And we weren't going to the gas station bathroom to steal toilet paper.
No, we weren't. Yeah. And I was not born in Arizona. I was born in California. My father was military.
We'll forgive her.
Yeah.
Well, my father was military.
Yeah.
So, and then I was actually in basically basic training for the Air Force, and I found out I was pregnant with my oldest, and that kind of changed my life direction. Huge blessing, but definitely changed my life. Actually became a military spouse for about 10 years, and then was in Arizona, and I worked in the IT field for quite a few years and became a network administrator and then a data analyst. And I actually got really sick, and I was struggling with chronic illness. And that was another reason, that we had looked at farming and homesteading long before we had actually moved out here. And part of it was that we just wanted to be out of the city, and we wanted to be prepared because we kind of saw what we believe is coming.
But let me interject there. Part of that was, we tried growing little gardens in Arizona, and we were having to water 3 times a day. I mean, like you said, mulch, but we were still watering. Yeah. And, if we got a handful of tomatoes, we were doing good. So,
it's tough. Yeah, it's really tough. I know Billy and William were like, how in the world did y'all do this? So
gardening on Mars. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. So we went from 7 inches of rain a year to almost 60 inches of rain a year. Huge difference. But we also wanted to start raising our own meat and growing our own food. And, health wise, like I honestly believe, like pharmacy, right? FARM, right? Like food is your healer. And it's been amazing, going from somebody that was in corporate America, didn't really, I don't mind IT. I actually appreciate IT, but, being unhealthy and stressed out, and coming to the homestead and raising our own meat and growing our own food, it's been night and day. Yeah. It's been a huge change. So I always, and we run a youth mental health nonprofit. And like the first thing I'm telling parents, I'm like, you've got to get your kids to see an integrative functional medicine doctor, not Western MD, get them off of the medications if you can, and put them on real food. Get them off of the junk.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it neat how, you can resolve multiple issues by just maybe even just a change of location? But here y'all were in the corporate thing, the digital synthesized kind of desk jockey. And, I was a financial planner for 11 years, so I'm very familiar. I did go to the gym a lot to recuperate from that lifestyle. It's just, you're immobile, you're sedentary, you're getting hit with all the EMF stuff, you're in front of the screen. And then you're trying the rest of your day to combat that, right? Trying to overcome that challenge. And in an integrated way, you can slow down, right? And get some dirt and grow your own food, know what's in it, know where it comes from. And it'll literally heal you. And you don't have to deal with all of that synthetic infrastructure and baloney that comes along with all that. Yeah. Now, okay, dollars usually follow that, but there's, as we all know, there's things much more valuable in life than just the fiat greenbacks. So, so, okay. So y'all were in Arizona. Ben was in corporate banking. You were in IT. You saw these changes and these markers and these different maybe velocities and easy money and the money printing and all this stuff. So you said, okay, so we want to make a change. So what happened? What was the I know Denise had a health issue, but what do you think was the final straw that said, yeah, now we're going to do it now? What was that?
Well, we talked about it and looked at it, and how we wound up here is we'd both been here in Western North Carolina in the Appalachian Mountains before we met each other, and we both loved it. That's how we wound up here. But I guess we have to take a step back, and and it's a hard subject to talk about. But in 2016, we lost our son Jake to suicide. And that was pivotal. I mean, you talk about life altering, that was, and he was denied care from the insurance company. We could have lawyered up and sued them and lined our pockets, and it would have got swept under the rug. And we decided to take a different route. We formed our nonprofit, and we sought to change legislation. And so, we were called bullies, the GEM Foundation, JEM, GEM Foundation. We were called bullies because we were pushing around the multi-billion-dollar insurance companies. But so in 2020, after about 4 years of lobbying and hearings and reliving the worst day of our life in front of committees and, full House, full Senate committees, talking about this awful day and the tragedy, after 4 years, it was finally heard and it got passed. Jake's Law got passed unanimously in both the House and Senate in Arizona. And
which is crazy because it was both sides came to an agreement, which is unheard of nowadays.
Boy. And I tell you what, you really, when you are behind those doors, you really see the ugly side of politics. I mean, people wanted to tank legislation that was going to help kids because the person that sponsored our bill was running for their seat again, and they didn't want them to win their seat.
Wow.
So it's disgusting. It really is truly disgusting. Anyway, so there were only 3 bills that passed before the lockdowns in 2021. Ours was one of the 2020. Sorry, of that. So ours was one of those 3, and we were done. We'd been looking at properties out here for that 4 years and just dreaming, and what if, and we said, you know what, we're done. Our other kids are adults now, and we're empty nesters. So we sold the house, bought a 32-foot RV, loaded up 3 dogs, 2 cats, and we drove 2,000 miles. And on our way here, all these properties we've been watching for years sold. So fortunately, we had a great realtor. We got here, and the property we're sitting on now is the very first one we saw. He's like, I know you're wanting to do stuff with your charity. We looked at a couple others, but out here straight up the mountain, and like, well, that's not usable. And so a little more than what we wanted to spend, but we landed here, and we're grateful for it. And we count our blessings every day. And like Denise says, we get to wake up to a postcard. You can see our pond down below us. That's why we chose this location. But so I mean, we've got,
and we have water.
Well, that's it.
We raise meat.
We are towards the top of the mountain. There is nobody above us, so we've got streams on both sides. So nobody can mess with our water.
That's
great. Unless you count the chemtrails and all that. That's a whole that's a whole different subject to talk about. But part of our property, we are currently trying to build a barn. We're going to have horses. We're going to do animal therapy for kids that struggle with mental illness. That's part of the GEM Foundation. We pay for a number of kids that are in therapy right now. none of our funds go straight to the parents. It goes to pay the therapist after these kids are seen to get them help. But our big dream is to do that animal therapy, and maybe someday have a camp where they can actually come and stay. But
yeah, and a big part of that animal therapy is going to be diet and getting their hands in the ground and the dirt and talking about meat and how to raise it and why, having your own meat is, crucial, and what happens with the USDA versus, a homestead and,
Great. That's awesome.
So there, I know that was loaded. There's
that's
unpackaged there.
That's some pretty awesome. So how many acres are y'all? How many acres are y'all?
Just shy of 54 acres.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Well, the hope is that, eventually maybe our kids will want to move out here, and that way everybody can kind of have their own space and all that. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we got about 5 acres that are cleared, and we're working on getting about 30 more acres into silvopasture. We don't want to clear cut it. We want to do the silvopasture, right? So we've got the forest, but the sunlight can get through and grow the grasses for the goats, sheep, cows,
Awesome.
So what kind of animals are you running right now?
Everything but horses. No,
and pigs, no pigs.
Well, that's true.
Not yet.
That's true. That's true. No, we've got two cows and a bull.
Okay.
We've got 3 goats. One is a male, and he'll probably move on down the road here after we're sure that the girls are pregnant, because they're Nubian, so we want to get goat's milk. And then we've got hair sheep, Katahdin hair sheep. How many we got up there? 7?
7, yeah.
7 sheep, and then we just picked up a St. Croix. He's up here in the yard with us. He's quarantined right now because we don't want him mating with the girls because they're not yet a year old. So he's on
the young girls, the young sheep.
The young girls, yeah. He's on standby, standing here looking at me going, I can see it. I can see him up the hill. But in that, we've got turkeys and guineas and ducks and chickens.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we had fish, but we think somebody came in and swiped them in the night. Seriously, we had 200 trout down there, and we're not finding any in there. So
that was before we had the pasture fence. Now we got the pasture fence that's fully electrified. Nobody's coming in now.
Yeah, Kentucky Fry them if they try it again.
Yeah, as Billy says.
That's great.
So now, how did you just start growing your own food? That's hard.
It actually is. I was actually talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I'm like, it's a lot easier to raise meat on pasture than it is to grow vegetables, fruit and veg. It really is. But yeah, I just did, I started doing a lot of research on how to grow plants, how to, what to do with the soil. And believe it or not, like I've gone through my PDC now, my permaculture design certificate. But before that, Ben had been talking about permaculture. And I started looking at permaculture, and I'm like, these people are insane. I was like, most of these people, they were so far,
far out. You have to do it this way. If you don't put 17 leaves in your bucket at the time, it's not going to work.
Well, and not just that, just their whole like communism and socialism and the whole political side of it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, you've got to watch Permapasture's Farm. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch. Right. And then I started watching Permapasture's Farm. I was like, okay, well, they seem, sane.
Yes. Very.
And now we really know how they are.
You're right. Yeah.
Did you get your PDC from Nick?
Nick Bertner. Yeah. School of Permaculture.
Yeah. Awesome. We met Nick several times.
Yeah, so it was great. And, and him being a Christian, and we're Christian. And then, we got to know Billy and Michelle and William, and, started really learning from them, and started going, okay, there's a method behind the madness, and understanding, just letting nature work together, right? We don't have to fight nature. God's given us this blueprint. We just have to follow it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's in Arizona, it really was. You go down to Home Depot and you pick up a big bag of Miracle Grow, and that's what you use, because we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we just use our animals, right? We just use our animals.
Yeah, rotation.
Yep.
Well, that's one of the animals we forgot to mention was the rabbits.
Yeah.
We got rabbits, for meat, because we'd like to switch our dogs to a raw meat diet, but the poop is amazing because you don't have to compost it. It can go straight to the plants. And so, we got a lot of rabbits out there, and we just keep scooping and throwing it out on the food forest and in the garden, and it's good stuff.
That's great.
Wow, that's great. We need to pause for a station identification just to do some housekeeping. Today's episode is brought to you by Stacey over at the Financial Prepper. So if y'all are looking for gold or silver or precious metals, please give Stacey a call. At least get her to quote it for you. 318-564-5823. Tell her that the Texas Boys sent you. It's always a great idea to diversify and to at least have some monicum of precious metals in the event of all the stuff we were talking about yesterday in the live stream. We're going to have an upcoming episode on the Fearless podcast talking about the great taking.
Yeah.
And so you're definitely going to want to tune into that. And anything else, Matt?
And then also when we're on the topic of diversifying your portfolio and your investments, I would highly recommend the Food Forest in the Box. We just launched it and everybody's been loving it. And they've been some of the best fruit tree cuttings since the 3 years we've been doing it. So go check it out, the Food Forest in the Box at the texasboys.com. There are pear, peach, fig, and mulberry cuttings in there. So go check it out. And also there's all types of awesome goodies over at the texasboys.com, from unvaccinated honey to tea, all types of cool stuff. But anyway, back to the show.
Okay. So y'all moved from Arizona, you moved to North Carolina. Not only did you do that, it sounds like you have a little bit of community there. It sounds like you met these weirdos at Perma Pasture Farm.
That guy. Yeah. Well, I remember watching the first one. I was watching Sow the Land, and and he went over and met Billy, and Billy's talking 90 miles an hour and this and that. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm familiar with some of these things. I didn't know there was a title or a subject matter of permaculture. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that there were like the Three Sisters and all doing that kind of thing. And then I started watching his YouTube channel, and Denise reached out to him like, well, they're here somewhere close by. So we reached out to him and said, hey, if you're ever processing chickens and need a hand, William's like, come on over. And that's how we met him, and started learning butchery, and they're what, 20 minutes up the road from us about. So
you want to hear something kind of cool and ironic? Billy reached out to me. He saw our interview on Mike Adams, and he reached out to me, wanted to have me on the podcast. So we got to talking, and he was like, "Oh, I used to live in Texas, and he was like, I was like, Billy, you were literally like an hour from us,
Oh, wow.
And now, as God would have it, William is moving back.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to get to,
it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. We're going to enjoy that whole process, hanging out with William and hopefully picking his brain.
Yes,
and
definitely.
He can help us. We'll barter. We'll help him, and it'll be cool. Some
very cool. Yeah, he's on his way right now. So no, that's very cool. He is a wonderful young man. He's been over here and helped us multiple times, and just like his dad and his mom, very giving, shirt off your back kind of person. And
I was sad to give back baby June yesterday.
Yeah. I'm like, honey, we really need to go. And she's trying to snuggle the baby, or not snuggle, smuggle the baby out.
Smuggle.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, that's really cool that, he'll be close to you guys. So,
yeah.
So you guys moved about 2 years ago?
No, 3 years ago now.
So you moved 3 years ago. And looking back in retrospect, you're 3 years in, you have 3 years worth of experience. You've obviously, because we've drawn these same conclusions between raising meat and raising vegetables, that obviously it's much easier to raise meat than to raise vegetables. What, looking back retrospectively in 3 short years, would you say that you would do anything different or change anything as far as your approach when you originally started, or, as it stands right now? What do you think?
Well, there's always, hindsight 2020 always, but Denise felt a calling when we got here. It said, we need to grow our own vegetables, but she's like, we need to get animals. We need to get meat. It just, God was talking to her and said, we need to do that first. And quite literally, we lived in the RV, still sitting over here. We lived in the RV for over a year because the house, we bought this place for the property, not for the house. We don't even like the house. We had to completely gut it. It's a good thing we did. The wiring was the old stuff, knob and tube to the new wire. And and we bought, it's a 1970s house.
1960s, we thought.
Or 1960s house, we thought, until we ripped down the walls and there's old hand-hewn beams in there. This was an 1860s home. It used to be a two-story cabin. And in the 60s, they came in, cut the roof, the upper portion off with a chainsaw. We know this for a fact because Larry, my neighbor, his dad is one of the ones that helped do that. And then they bricked out the front, made it into grandma's house and
old 60s ugly rancher.
So and we are still living on plywood floors because any extra time we have, we're moving the animals, we're cutting trees to clear the silvo pasture. So it's
isn't it so cool, right? Because you said, oh yeah, well, we have plywood floors. Why? Because we have to move our animals because we want to eat, right? Because we because we want to, like, the priority. It's like if we take modern America culture, right? That is, the general theme of the masses is like, oh, well, I want to compete with the Joneses and I want to have a nice yard with no dandelions, with this big house with travertine tile, right? And then you have people that have recalibrated, right? And like, you know what? No, actually,
I want the direct opposite of that.
Food's kind of important. And I'm totally cool with a plywood floor if I can eat nutrient dense meat and know what it ate and know what's in it.
No, exactly.
And on a sidebar, can I just say the people that spray their lawns to get rid of dandelions drives me insane. I'm like, those are edible and they're medicinal and they're great for the pollinators.
And you're destroying our water runoff, like you are polluting the planet with forever chemicals. But at least you're nice.
Well, and it's this whole cycle, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, they don't want the dandelion, right? So then they turn around and they don't want the dandelion. So then they spray it, right? But the dandelion's there to fix the problem in the soil. So then what happens is they damage the soil more by spraying. So then more dandelions pop up because they're trying to fix it.
The one valuable thing they have in their yard, the dandelion, they've killed it.
Right. Well, and you know where lawns came from, right? Do y'all know where lawns came from?
Yeah, that's
the whole premise of a lawn.
Yeah, that British nobility thing, right?
Yes, right. We're so rich we don't have to grow our own food. We can just grow grass, right? So that mentality came into America, and it's just like, do you realize how ridiculous that is?
It is nuts. It's
nuts. Yeah, but I go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just so neat to have a different value system, and it's interesting too. When you grow your own food, I think you would agree with us. It's not necessarily cheaper. I mean, it's expensive to have animals and to husband them and to do all these things. And a lot of people try to kind of pitch homesteading as like, oh, you're going to save money. And I was, well, no, food was expensive and it should still be expensive. And even raising itself, are you going to be able to, is it going to be cheaper in the long run if you do it yourself? Yes, but it's still going to be expensive, because it should be, because it is our medicine.
It's valuable.
It's so valuable. It should be as expensive as it is valuable.
Well, and here's like, we bought an old depleted tobacco farm, right? So our soil is just awful, right? And so we're working on using the animals to help us replenish it. But so right now, obviously, we've got the cows and the sheep and we're feeding hay. Now we're into November, but by rotationally grazing our animals and moving them, we're actually healing the land. So right now in the beginning, we're going to spend more, but as that pasture recovers and replenishes, right. And we're not using vaccines in our animals. We're not worming our animals. Right. So all the good quality nutrients are going back into that pasture. As that pasture recovers, it will be less expensive because now all that good forage is going to be in the ground and the animal, there's going to be more of it. So in the beginning, it can definitely be more expensive, but as you put regenerative agricultural practices and permaculture practices in practice, then over the long run, you will actually be healing your pasture and be having to feed less hay. Right.
Yeah.
So
your cost basis will go down and your nutrients and nutritional value will go up exponentially. That's another factor that many people discount, even when you think about it. Let's say your costs remain the same, right? And your costs remain relatively high. The nutritional value of the food you're raising, as it exponentially goes up, that's an incredible value. Absolutely. That is changing, even if the cost remains the same.
Well, yeah, it's like even our Jersey, right? We're not milking right now because she's getting ready to have her baby, and then we'll go back to milking again. But I'm like looking at the milk in the store, and I'm like, there's nothing in this. They've pasteurized it so much,
cooked it out.
There's no nutrients in this milk, in the cheese, and anything that we have. And so if you take a cow and have that raw dairy, well, now it's got all those nutrients in it and all the enzymes and good bacteria that we can put into our bodies, right? And I know not everybody can drink milk, but for those that can, and typically the pasteurization's a lot of times the issue with the milk, right?
Yes.
100%.
Right. So everything's dead. Everything we're eating is just dead. Like even our soil, right? Like we were talking not that long ago, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So we're putting nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, right? Right. The NPK, right?
NPK,
yeah. And back into our soil. Okay. But I'm like, but what about all the trace minerals that we require? Right. So then I go down to the store. Okay. Well, they've fertilized it with NPK, but what about everything else that we need? So that tomato has nothing in it. There's nothing of value in that tomato. So, I mean, no wonder we're so sick.
Well, we were listening to somebody and said that the nutrients, the NPK is enough to grow a plant, basically trick it into fruiting for you. But it's not putting those nutrients into that plant at all. I mean, you'll have a beautiful tomato, say, but nutritional value versus what you can grow out here in rabbit poop. But one of the things I was going to bring up, we were talking about we don't worm. A lot of people don't understand why you don't worm. Well, not only does the poop go into the ground and absorb into the soil, which is great, but so do those chemicals that are worming the animals and kills your worms in your soil and kills that life. So you have great poop, but it's not, you're not benefiting your soil from doing that.
Yeah. What most people don't realize is there's far more life in that soil below the soil than there is above it.
Right.
So.
And so, Ben, a little backtrack to 30 years of corporate banking experience. So where are you investing your money? Because I heard you say you liquidated your 401k. I mean, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to?
I'm just going to have to work forever, I guess.
Oh, okay.
No, you won't. Well, we're farmers. We will be working.
Right.
That doesn't mean for us to retire fully, but
exactly.
Yeah. No. That's I like that lifestyle. I mean, I help out. I've got a friend that's doing some renovations. I help him a couple days a week, whatever, just for a little, gas money, I guess, if you will. But I don't. I actually don't have a lot of investments now. I mean,
investments the farm.
Yeah, exactly.
Investments land and the farm.
Infrastructure.
But just like your sponsor for the show, we do have some other assets, but won't go into too much of that. But
anyway. I think you're going to be very thankful that you're not exposed to the stock market. You won't stocks and bonds as the great taking occurs. I'm fascinated by people that know better. That they continue to dabble in that market, and I mean, you find out the hard way quickly. And
so the stock market is gambling. So you never put in what you can't afford to lose. I mean, that's the rule, and people don't live by that rule. But again, my daughter now works for Wells Fargo Bank. She started there about a year before I left, but I told her, they company matches 6%. And I said, that's free money on the table. I said, at least put in the 6%, have them double your money. You're not your near retirement age. Put it in there. You're not going to miss it out of your paycheck, and just, let it hopefully grow and hopefully it'll grow for her. But
Well, she's young, so she can take a risk, but
that's it.
But we're of the mindset now that, I think it's safer to be out of the markets and to have actual physical assets like gold and silver, land, other issues, possibly copper, right? Especially with the, the rare mineral issue, right? Yeah. So I think that's a safer spot. Because we've talked about it and we both really believe that, this isn't going to be a great recession. We really believe we're heading towards a depression because we keep, we're 33, almost 34 trillion dollars in debt. We can't, that's unsustainable. We can't even pay back the interest at this point. It's completely unsustainable.
Yeah.
So
34 trillion plus the unfunded pension liabilities. I think it's over 100 trillion now.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
I had not heard that. Wow.
Yeah.
And we can't even fathom
comprehend 100 trillion.
We can't even understand that. And that's the beauty of it, is it's that changing a mindset, because the predominant, government school, like save, invest in the market. Ben, you said something kind of fascinating is, the stock market is gambling and you shouldn't put anything in there that you can't afford to lose. Right. But modern concept and model is like, no, you're investing in this so you can retire. So you're literally putting everything. The modern model is put all your eggs in that basket. And that way, because it's the only way that you can get an annual rate of return of 8%. So that way we can run your retirement projections and you will retire comfortably on $150,000 a year, and we can convert this to an annuity when you reach your retirement age and develop an income stream. But, there's a lot of variables in there. None of them are a cataclysmic loss of 50 to 80%, which is so incredibly probable,
Right.
That's the field. If you were a honest financial planner, because we continue, the what's the one, they would always say, the past performance is no indication of, the future results and all these different things, right? They have these little quotes and phrases, but we know historically that if we look at the last 100-year average, the problem with that is all of the fundamentals, every conceivable fundamentals of money, sound money, fiat money, velocity, liquidity, quantitative easing, all these things, and then when Rona hit, they even completely zeroed out and eliminated fractional banking. There is not even a thing such as fractional banking anymore. There is not a fractional reserve anymore required. So they've literally abandoned all these fiscal fundamentals. So the fact that financial planners will try to point to historical results, in my opinion, is a complete con. They're conning their customers, because if they were honest and real, nobody would invest, because something is really bad is going to happen when it comes to all these markets, including emerging markets and all these different things. There is no way to protect that against downside risk. So it's fully exposed, and it'll probably, at a minimum, it'll tank 50%. It'll probably be like 80 or 90%. And no one honestly can afford that. And it makes that whole industry kind of like a joke, me, that people continue to say these same catchphrases and offer these same, you need a diversified portfolio, and it's just like a diversified portfolio is not going to protect you from what is coming, No,
but when you think about it, though, what choice do you have as an employee? Because everybody's done away with their pensions. It's all in 401k. So it's like, well, we're going to match it to try to get you involved in it. And very, very few people have the discipline to take money out of their paycheck and go down and buy, a gram of gold and two silver dollars kind of thing. And
sure. Yep. That's right.
So unless you happen to be one of those rich men north of Richmond, and you get to hold the hearings on the companies that you suddenly have a whole lot of stock in, you're not likely to do very well. So that'll get your channel in trouble. I'm sorry.
That's a state that we perpetually stay in. So
okay.
We're not used to that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so y'all are running the animals to regenerate the soil. You're continuing to practice this art of gardening and hone and perfect those skills. Where do you see I know you've talked a little bit about this with your nonprofit and some of the goals that you have moving forward with like equestrian therapy and different things like that. Where do you see your homestead in the next 5 years? Where do you see y'all going in a homestead as far as like maybe animals and how you'll continue to expand your footprint?
Go ahead.
Well, the big thing is, so we want to keep about 20 acres or so completely wild, right? To just let nature kind of do its thing. And we want to clear out about 30 more acres for silvopasture. So that will allow us to obviously focus a little more on beef, especially as we get the silvopasture created in the, because we've got like some steeper slopes, some not so steep slopes. So we're going to focus on moving a lot of the sheep and goats and some of the cows to some of the not so steep areas, but steeper areas, because the horses aren't going to do as well on the steep, but the cows, sheep, and goats are fine. So it'll be getting that cleared out, because that will give us way more options, not only for the animals, but for infrastructure as well, right? We see, I'm not sure when this is going to happen, but I think in 5 years we'll probably be through I don't know if we'll be completely through the depression, but I think it will have happened by then. Yeah. So our hope is that not only for our family, but for loved ones and those that God leads us to help, that we will have extra food that we will be able to help people with, because that's part of it, right? Is God has given us these blessings. We want to share those blessings when we can. And that doesn't mean we're going to give to just anybody. And it doesn't mean, that you can just show up on our doorstep and expect, right? Because we prepared, you have it.
Yeah. Right? We love it when people say, well, when things go bad, I'm just coming to your place.
No, you're not. Right. So, and we're hoping as we grow this, we're hoping to grow the channel a little more too, because the whole point of it is, okay, these are steps we're taking. We want to help people build these steps, right? Because I know there's channels out there. It's too late. It's too late. It's not too late.
It's
not too late. And I hate that fear mongering stuff. It's like, it's not too late. There are still things you can do, right? To help, even if you can just get rabbits, right? And it's like, and that's what we focus on. Like I love potatoes. I'm Irish. It's part of my DNA, right?
Yeah.
So we will grow potatoes because they're a good food source, but we're really focused on the meat, because if things go bad, kale's not going to keep us alive. But that sheep or that cow or that, right? Yeah. So so we want to expand that more, but we cannot do that until we have more of that land cleared. So hopefully in the next at least couple of years, we'll have that silvopasture in. It'll give us access to about 30 more acres, because right now we've got acreage we're not accessing. So it's like we don't even have it.
Yeah. And it hasn't been, last time it was logged was 80 years ago, and they pulled the trees out with horses. There's not even logging roads in there. Yeah, that's
great.
Old some of the, there's some
really
beautiful massive old trees
in that soil. That's great,
because you didn't have big old logging trucks go up there and destroy it.
Yeah. Oh, we do have a logging deal on a small portion of it, but part of that is to our advantage, because they're going to be putting a logging road and graveling it up there, so we'll actually have access to a lot more of our pasture.
Needed a road anyway,
Exactly. And we do have a sawmill. It's it's assembled and ready to go. I've not yet fired it up. I want to do that.
What'd you go with? What brand?
It's the what is it?
The green one, the wood
miser.
Not wood miser.
No.
Woodland Mills. Thank you.
That's
Woodland
it.
Mills.
Yeah, that's what we have. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the same one.
Yeah.
Is it the HM 130 Max or is
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
They got the exact same one.
Well, good. Get back out here and you can help me get it fired up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had mine for about 3 years now.
Nice.
Had mine for about 3 years, and I just bought the mobile unit, and I actually started a company, mobile milling, and it's been doing great. Everybody loves it. I pull up, it has the winch, you winch the log on. It's a great
Yeah, and go back on our channel because we did a video on a DIY. The boys set it up so that
a couple years in, of just manually pushing the head unit through the wall kind of gets a little bit old. So we actually came up with this really cool design with a winch system and a DC like control panel and everything for like $200, and it pulls itself through.
Yeah, so it's on a remote.
Yeah,
nice.
And we linked everything. We linked everything, and we did a DIY video. So,
cool. I will definitely go back and check that out because where I have it, it's fairly steep, so I actually had to build a platform up to that level. That's part of what took time to do it, but I will definitely check that. I can visualize exactly what you're talking about, pulling it across. But
I'm standing real quick. There's a yellow jacket. I'm allergic to him, so I'm just in case I need to run. He's here.
If she runs and jumps in the pond, you'll know why. But except you're pulling the mic back.
Okay, bees are fine. Yellow jackets and I do not get along.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention something else. We were talking about just helping people in a depression. There's a lot of people out there saying, well, it's, this is biblical. It is the end times. And, I expect to see Jesus coming out of the clouds any day now. Well, that doesn't mean you don't prepare because, it might be tomorrow. It might absolutely be tomorrow. Anything's possible. But if you're going to go down and sit at the side of my pond with your family, there's a good chance you're going to starve to death before he comes back. So you still have to prepare.
That's right.
100%.
And I want to reiterate what you said about the whole, like, it's too late fear thing. I mean, being in the financial field and getting out of the market in 2008, I would have swore to you 80 times that this thing would have crapped before 2018, and if anything, we're just seeing the grace of God providing 100%. People with more time before this thing does whatever it's going to do. I mean, it is becoming more self-evident and apparent that the wheels are going to fall off. But why, rather than be so negative, it's too late, I'm going to sit in my apartment and watch Jerry Springer or whatever people do now. If you actually get out there and do something, put your feet in the dirt, and get your hands in the dirt. I mean, and not only that, it'll bring you a literal calming and a peace of mind just by developing that more simplistic, slower lifestyle is so therapeutic psychologically.
Yeah, that's so true. And our channel actually started more. We were recording so that our families could see what's going on. Because at the time, my grandmother was still alive. She was, she passed away a couple of years ago. A month away from her 99th birthday. But that's how it started. And then people started kind of tuning in, and it grew. We're a little over 4,000 now. But
that's great.
The focus more is helping others. Kind of like Billy says. If you teach somebody how to butcher a chicken, and they become self-sufficient, that's one less person I have to worry about coming up the road to try to take what I've got when things go bad. So we're trying to learn everything we can and teach what we can. And she's definitely a research type of person to say, I heard about this thing. And next thing we got stuff pulled up, and we went down and tasted some apples last season. We went down to try the Evercrisp that Billy loves, but she found, what was the one? A Cameo. Before we were out of the parking lot, she had 2 trees ordered to be planted here. So, I mean,
Hey, so speaking of all that, with documenting stuff and a YouTube channel, where can our people find you?
We are at Renewed Homestead. That's our YouTube channel, and renewedhomestead.com is our website. And we don't have any comfrey root right now just because the ground's not really workable, but we do sell comfrey root. We have hori knives. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a garden spade, but it's got a serrated edge. And
we'll have to send y'all one.
Oh yeah, definitely. This thing's full tine though. It's not a cheap metal. You get one of those ones at Home Depot, and you stick it in, and you hit a rock, and you break it off, bend it over. I promise you it won't do that.
We're in the mountains, so we can't. We've got to have stuff that's really sturdy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I make deodorant. And
no chemical deodorant. It's good stuff.
Very
awesome.
Cool. So you're monetizing your homestead, trying to.
We're going to be selling meat birds. That's the plan. We did Cornish cross last time. I got to tell you, we don't like them. I like the ginger broilers better. I know people want the breasts, but we're gonna, we had a hard time. They kept dying.
Yeah.
So
it's the same thing. It's
ginger broilers didn't. They were phenomenal. So, but we're going to be selling meat, and we're right now we're trying to figure out the whole how to get around the USDA thing. Right, with chickens we don't have to worry about it, but if we want to sell sheep, so we're looking at possibly like butchery classes. We did a chicken butchery one, and we might be doing it with sheep and rabbits. Right, so then they can pay for the class, right, and then they get to take home meat. Right, so we're looking at things like that to get money in. And I remember one thing you asked, like, is there one thing that we, like, hindsight, that we probably could have done? We researched a lot, but what I'm learning now is everything comes down to the soil, right? If you have pest issues, if you have disease issues, if you have, even in your animals, it's not just your plants. If you have disease in your livestock, it's because there's something unbalanced in your soil. So I wish I would have understood a little more of the soil food web, a little more, but that comes with, I'm still learning. I'm reading a book right now that was written in the 40s called The Soil and Health by Sir Albert Howard. And I'm like, the stuff that he talks about, like, I remember the first time I opened the first chapter, I'm like, well, he's talking about the same stuff we are. And this was in the 40s after World War II. And I'm like, wait a minute, if it was that bad then, like, how much worse is it now? And if we don't, you have to heal the soil, because if you look at nature, right, nature doesn't like put chemicals on itself to get rid of pests, right? It fixes the soil. And so that's really, I'm really trying to focus on improving our soil for our livestock as well as our fruit and veg.
That's awesome.
And that's what's fascinating as well is, when it comes to legislation and the District of Criminals and all the talking and the save the planet, kill the cows because they fart, because, my global warming and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then you have real people that have actually read a book, even from the 40s, right? And said, no, it's the soil. We need the animals to regenerate the soil, which will regenerate, keep everything green,
in balance.
And it shows you the conspiracy of all this stuff. He's writing on it in the 40s, and it's you. And here we are, 2023, and people still don't even know. They're still completely and maybe blissfully ignorant to it. And but
well, awesome. And we did a video on that on like, if you take livestock and then you take agricultural for your soy burger, that agriculture is far worse for the environment than that cow is.
And we got shadow ban.
We got shadow ban.
Right.
Welcome to the club. Right. But now you can go through the reprogramming camp. You can now you can like properly.
I saw that. Yes. Yeah, Robert Barnes was talking about that.
Yeah, I've been through a couple of times. I'm all reprogrammed.
Are you all reprogrammed now? You're part of the matrix.
Yeah, I'm a good little YouTube bot now. So.
There you go.
All right, y'all. So we want to thank Ben and Denise for coming on the show, and we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but check them out. The Renewed Homestead. Check out their website.
Definitely.
Follow them on YouTube, on their different social media, and you'll learn a lot of great information. And we appreciate y'all watching and listening. And remember, y'all, stay fearless, my friends.